All right, here we are back, everybody, at our 391st video of the Atlanta campaign. Just kidding, but it seems like a lot. We are cruising through places. We have been all over the place in the Atlanta campaign. We're at Ringgold, we're at Rocky Face Ridge. We've been down to Dalton and then over to Resaca, and we've been to New Hope and onto that line to Gilgal Church. And here we are on Pine Mountain, and we have a beautiful day, and we have some pretty good visibility off in the distance. It was not a beautiful day back in 1864 for one particular soldier we're going to talk about up here, who's memorialized behind me over here. But just note that as I look around here, it's only my second time here, I can see cannon emplacements around me. This is more than just the marker here. I can see where the guns were positioned. I can imagine Joseph E. Johnston and William Hardee and Leonidas Polk around here, kind of setting the scene up here on Pine Mountain. And to lay this out, let's talk to Kris White, Senior Deputy Director of Education at the American Battlefield Trust.
Boy, demoting me already. Wait till I get done with the video. Thanks, Gary. And to bring you back up to speed where we are, so we had just shot down at New Hope Church. So we were down along the New Hope Church, Pickett's Mill, Dallas line. So we have now, for Joseph Johnston and the Army of Tennessee, we're withdrawing to a new line of defense outside or getting closer to Atlanta. As we see down here on my right, we'll see Lost Mountain. We'll see up here towards the center Pine Mountain, where you see the 4 through 15 of June. That's actually where we're standing, 1,292 odd feet high. And then over here on the left, I'm looking through the thing, there's Brush Mountain. So this is going to be our new line here. And so as we notice, this is a salient position that is actually jutting forward. It's a forward position of the rest of this line. And this is actually a position that you don't want if you are the Confederates. So this is a flaw in the line. If you think about Spotsylvania Courthouse, you think of the mule shoe down there, that portion of the line that protrudes outward. That's what we're dealing with here at Pine Mountain. So there's some talk within the Confederate High Command if we can actually stabilize this line and we can actually bring it back more on a line that is more straight and get this Pine Mountain bulge out of here. So what we're going to start to see out here in June 14th, 1864, we're going to see some of the high command of the Confederate Army of Tennessee. And behind me is a monument to Leonidas Polk. He is the Bishop General, as he's known to most people, and in the Civil War. Polk is quite a controversial character. He's a West Point graduate of the class of 1827, and here at Pine Mountain, he's 58 years old, North Carolina native, and he has spent very little time in the Army until the American Civil War. He goes off to become an Episcopal bishop. So Polk, when he comes off to war, is going to do some really dumb things throughout the American Civil War, including bringing Kentucky in on the side of the Federals or the Union or the North. So Polk, time and time again, is going to be kind of a thorn in folks' side, including Braxton Bragg, the former Army commander of the Army of Tennessee. And Polk, even though he is a thorn in some people's side, Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, loves him, as do the men. He's a very popular general, and there's something to be said for a battlefield leader who has the confidence of those guys out in the field. So Polk is, to me, one of the poorest generals in the Confederacy in either side, but he's well loved by his men. Out here, he will come riding Joseph Johnston, Joseph Eggleston Johnston, the commander of the Army of Tennessee. He is going to come out here with William Hardee, the former temporary commander of this army right before the Atlanta campaign kicked off, and they are going to come riding up here. They're going to pick up Polk, and the three officers are going to come up on top of Pine Mountain and kind of look around what they see up here, and they're going to come in and amongst the guns of Beauregard's battery. That is the son of PGT Beauregard, one of the highest ranking generals in the Confederate Army. And when they come up into this area, Colonel Dilworth is going to be up here, 4th Florida, and say, you guys should not be up here. This is actually an exposed position. Keep in mind, whenever these two armies establish a defensive line, this is the Eastern Theater or the Western Theater, most of these trees are going to come down. Why? Trees are very valuable to armies during the American Civil War. You're going to need that for firewood, and more specifically, you're going to need it for construction of earthen fortifications. Even though today we have these low mounds behind us, what you're going to want to use to help build those up. Embrasures, you're going to want to take down trees. You're also going to want to put impediments out in front. You can chop down trees, face them towards the enemy, and those are known as slashings. You can also intertwine them and make abattis or fray or many other items. So this area would be much more devoid of timber. So coming up here on his favorite horse, Jerry, is Polk. He's riding along with Johnston and Hardee, and usually the junior officers are a little bit smarter than the general officers. At least that's what the junior officers think. And they're going to say that this isn't the smartest idea. Well, in the valley below us, we're going to start to see a few other officers show up. One is William Tecumseh Sherman, as is Oliver Otis Howard, the 4th Corps commander of the Army of the Cumberland. Showing up is Howard, the pious but vapid Howard. On the Union side, he's my Leonidas Polk. So they're going to ride down. They're going to see a knot of officers up on top of Pine Mountain. And Sherman's going to say something along the lines of how saucy they are, which is just a fantastic line. And he is going to order a close-by battery, have Howard order a close-by battery to fire up on top of this knoll. And what you're going to start to see are puffs of smoke in the distance, and then eventually artillery shells arcing in. Well, the officers up here will eventually get the hint that they need to get out of the way. But as they start to move out of the way, Polk is actually going to be struck by a shell on his left side, and it's going to tear clean through his body. He is going to hit the ground, falling off of Jerry and onto the ground. As that shell hits a tree, explodes. By the time Polk hit the ground, he was already dead. Polk is going to be the highest ranking officer killed in the Atlanta campaign. And it's going to be a tragedy for many of these men. Some men are going to say after his death that it was only second to Stonewall Jackson's death. They felt that Stonewall Jackson's death, as well as Polk's death, were those two nails in the coffin of the Confederacy. I don't buy that part of it. I'm not a Jackson fan, but Jackson's a little bit better than Polk on a battlefield. But Polk is killed up here. When he hits the ground, according to Sam Watkins, there's no blood, but that is completely false. He is going to be bleeding out up on top of this mountain, and they're going to find a few small prayer books that he was supposed to give out to the other Corps commanders, actually in amongst his belongings. He also had some other papers on him, but Polk's body is going to be removed from up here, and I think that Gary might have someone to come on to tell us a little bit more about Polk's body being removed from Pine Mountain.
I do, but before I do, I want to say that we've been on a lot of videos and we sometimes give Polk a hard time. I think we have him sipping on coffee and reading the sports section when he's supposed to be attacking on the Confederate right at Chickamauga. But I think we also covered him at Perryville when he rides into Union lines, assesses the situation, realizes he's among the enemy, and savvily confuses the Union troops, convinces them that he's in command, and he gets out safely to live another day and through a bunch of other days, and then ultimately meeting his end here. Now, I want to bring on somebody I mentioned on the last video, but you haven't seen yet. He's a good friend of ours and a great friend to preservation. This is President Emeritus of the Georgia Battlefield Association, and nobody in existence except maybe Melissa Sadler herself, who runs our events, has been to more American Battlefield Trust annual conferences. Our good friend Charlie Crawford. Charlie, what do you got to tell us, sir?
Oh, just a little fact from after Polk was killed. You would wonder, how would the U.S. Army officers know that he was dead? Well, a Confederate signalman here signaled that direction, which is where the rest of the main Confederate line is, that send an ambulance for General Polk's body. Now, they didn't use wigwag back then. It was a single staff that you used to signal, and he did. Of course, the U.S. Army signalman back here could read that and said, "We've killed General Polk." That's how the U.S. Army found out that one of those shells that landed on the mountain had killed Leonidas Polk.
Well, I can only imagine that somebody was over on the Union line strutting like I said to scatter them, and oh man, look what we did as a result of that. Speaking of as a result of this, we were talking about Sherman and talking about Johnston, how different characters they are. Johnston's facing a skillful opponent with a whole lot more men, and we're going to see Joseph Johnston abandon this Pine Mountain line. This will, of course, result in, the line along Brush and Gilgal, continuing to hold the line before falling back closer to Kennesaw and Kolb's Farm, and we're going to start to shoot some videos over there, and you'll see us over there. So, Kris White, thanks thanks for everything. Chris Bukowski behind the camera. Charlie Crawford, thanks for joining us. You haven't seen the last of him yet. And by the way, when you come up here, we're standing on private property here. We hope it might not always be that way, but for now it is. So we're happy to bring this monument to you. And thank you for all your support of battlefield preservation, education, and in this case, visitation.